What's up, everyone? I'm Shane Salonici, and this is OK What's Next, the show where we're diving into the crazy world of Web3 and attempting to answer the question everyone is asking, what's next? If you're looking for a job in crypto or Web3, this is the episode for you. If you're not job hunting at the moment, first of all, congratulations. But it's still a great episode, and you should definitely watch because we have the one and only Emily Landon in the house. Emily is the founder of the Crypto Recruiters, and the name, it speaks for itself, but if you're not picking up what I'm putting down, they are a recruiting firm that specializes in, you guessed it, crypto, but also Web3 and blockchain as well. So enough with my rant. You heard me. Let's hit it. What's next? What's next? What's next? Emily, welcome to OK What's Next. Thanks for joining the show. How are you doing today?
All good things. Really excited to be here.
So I'm really excited to talk to you about Web3 and the crypto recruiters in general. I've seen you posted on LinkedIn. I've seen your videos. So I'm really excited to tell the people and learn about your business.
Yeah, I'm excited to tell you.
Yeah, definitely. So without further ado, let's get into it. So to start off, I guess tell me about your background a little bit. How'd you get into the space and how'd you get into recruiting?
Yeah, so I've been recruiting for the past 6 years. How I got started, it's kind of a funny story. So I was working at a tech company and my now ex-boss called in to sell his recruiting services. We had an awesome conversation and he offered me a job on the spot. I was really excited about it, so I took the plunge and I just went into recruiting. It was a whirlwind. I mean, learning about financial services, learning about people's businesses, the intricacies and people's day-to-day jobs, right? And how everybody comes together and really solidifies a business. I got started in the Web3 space because my fiance was in it. So I learned everything that I know from him and I was just obsessed. But more importantly, I was obsessed with the community. It's kind, it's warm, it's welcoming. I mean, everybody is open to networking. And if you've worked in financial services, you understand that that's not necessarily the vibe over there. So it was a really great place to start. And I've been doing Web3 recruiting for about 3 years now. And it's just, I've helped over 200 people enter the space. It's been great. Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah, the community aspect of Web3 is really cool. And it's different than a lot of industries. You would think that, and there are avenues that are that bro-y, stocky culture, things like that. But overall, especially on LinkedIn, talking Web3 and things and the networking opportunities, it really is a good culture. We'll see how that goes if we're saying the same thing 10 years from now, hopefully. But that is very interesting. So, let's get into the crypto recruiters. So you mentioned how you got into Web3. How did you start the crypto recruiters?
Yeah, so the Crypto Recruiters was founded January 1st, 2020 as a New Year's resolution to the recruiting space, right? We believe recruiting can be better. It's become a very transactional space and we want to rehumanize it. So something as small as following up, right? Good news, bad news, no news. Our golden rule is we always follow up with our candidates and give them a status update of what's going on in their application. So we help Web3, crypto, blockchain, metaverse, NFT companies scale their teams with the right people. And it's awesome to help people change their lives, change their career trajectories. It's really rewarding. That's
really cool. A New Year's resolution, and you wanted to revolutionize the space essentially. So you obviously founded the company, correct?
Yes.
Did you do that alone? Did you start with a team? And how long did it take you to build up the current team that you have now?
Yeah, so I started alone. It was just me. And for the first 6 months, we didn't take on any business. We actually just networked that whole time. I thought that was critical to build up relationships and be able to have a pipeline of candidates. So when we did start taking on clients, we could provide immediate value. It was a year in that we started growing the team. We're now a team of 11, which is awesome.
Wow.
And I would say it's probably a year and a half for us to start really being successful. And, your comment earlier about our videos on LinkedIn, I think that's a big reason why we've been successful, is that interaction with the community and also the community's receptiveness to this casual nature that we promote, because, crypto is casual.
Exactly. So in those early days before you did take on business, what were you doing exactly? Was it just networking, meeting people? Were you making videos at that point?
Wasn't making videos at that point, was too busy with calls. It was 10 to 22 people a day, just back to back to back interviews. If I could show you my calendar even today, it's hilarious. The whole thing is blue, which can be frustrating for candidates. I'm usually booked out 3 to 4 days in advance, but we're doing the best we can and keeping up as fast as we can.
Okay, so on the flip side of things, what is the typical process for a company that is looking to hire?
Absolutely. So we definitely want to have a conversation, multiple conversations. So our first conversation is just going to be surrounding culture, company vibe. What is it like a day in the life of this person, right? Getting to know each other. It's important that we're helping companies that have great cultures, growth opportunities. They're healthy, they're stable, they're well funded. But, most importantly, Shane, they've got to have excellent leadership, because you quit a boss, not a job. So that's the initial conversation. After that, we'll schedule a follow-up to really dig into the role and what they're looking for once we've decided that this is a company that we feel comfortable representing. From there, we'll go ahead and start our search and provide candidates. I always give a timeline. So our usual timeline to help someone find a candidate and start a candidate is 2 to 3 weeks. But if it's a more difficult rec, I'm more than happy to say, hey, this may take us up to 6 weeks, right, to manage proper expectations. What's different about working with the crypto recruiters is we really take our time with our candidates to make sure it's the right culture fit, because culture is the biggest reason for turnover next to leadership. So really digging in there, the culture of the company, the culture of a candidate, making sure it's the perfect fit. And then we stay in touch with our clients. So I know that's something that a lot of recruiting firms don't do, but when we do place a candidate, we're following up bi-weekly. Hey, how's everything working out? Do you have any concerns? Is there anything I can coach them on? So it's really a partnership less than just a transaction.
Have you noticed anything different between your past recruiting experiences compared to now dealing with the companies actually specifically? So you mentioned about leadership.
Yeah.
Have you noticed where is it pretty much the same? Like a good company is a good company, or have you seen a difference there between Web3 companies and then former companies that you've worked with?
I think the biggest difference is the tenure of leadership, right? So we've got some absolutely brilliant minds here in Web3. I know 18-year-olds that are multimillionaires because of things that they've created, exits that they've done. It's wild. So, but and traditionally in financial services, they're very tenured leaders. So I think that's something, is it's a really youthful culture here. Even when it comes to hiring in tenured candidates, it's still a very relaxed culture, and that's not something that I found in financial services at all.
That's what I kind of figured. It's financial services, I'm sure. It's like you're working your way up to get to that leadership position, where an industry like Web3, which is, it's a toddler essentially still, it's a big difference.
Yeah.
As a recruiter, you said January 2020 is when you launched, correct?
Yep.
Launched the Crypto Recruiters.
Yep.
Obviously, since 2020, the industry as a whole has made strides, has gone down, has gone up. It's just so different. How have you seen this change the recruiting aspect?
Yeah. So salaries are starting to normalize. I think initially when we first started in the space, people were requesting and companies were offering, just amazing salaries. And my only hesitation, and always has been a hesitation, is how sustainable is that to a company? right? So I think as companies have grown, have failed, have had to do layoffs, I think they're realizing that, sustainable salaries are really important. Another thing is hiring has slowed a lot, especially in this bear market. And companies are being extra selective in who they're hiring. It's all about growing with the right people, right? And I think additionally, candidates are really digging in even more than before, doing their due diligence on projects, looking into investors, looking into the background of founders. I mean, really on just looking over everything that they possibly can, and they're being selective about the opportunities that they accept, right? So it's got to be the right move, not just any. I'm a big fan of that saying.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And I could imagine in the very early days, I mean, I talk about it a lot with people, and it's kind of not on the job side of things, but in the early days of Web3, how much people just were diving into projects. They weren't doing the research, and they were just buying.
Yeah.
And it makes sense that it is very similar when it comes down to the job market. Because I know some of the people I talked to in the beginning, and when my company was hiring in the very early stages, the experience wasn't exactly there yet, and everyone was trying to move so fast that decisions had to be made.
Yeah.
So it's refreshing to hear that that's something you guys are focusing on, and how it's changed and how it's kind of progressing.
Yeah, I mean, companies were super pressed for talent, especially Web3 talent. So, they were offering really high salaries to attract those people. And what's great is, 2 years later, more and more people have Web3 experience and crypto experience. So it's definitely leveling out the playing field.
So we talked about the market as a whole, how it's anyone listening to this, they know the market is not in the best situation right now. One would say we're in the time to build, and that's what companies could be doing right now. So with the current state of Web3, how has this affected the job market? Have you seen any significant differences?
Yeah, it's been tough. It's been tough, the job market. I mean, I would say right now there are more candidates than there are jobs. I think that, companies are pausing their hiring efforts. They're pushing things off until Q1. And there's a lot of companies, and I respect this about them. They want to make sure that they can provide stability to their employees before they bring them on, right? So I think that's something it's a value I share.
And yeah, that actually was going to lead me to my next question, because when you're going for a job in this industry, it's only fair to be reluctant with where that company is going to be in a year. So, yeah, what would you say to a job candidate that has those worries?
Yeah. So on top of doing your due diligence, really think, would you invest in this company, right? It has to be a company that you believe in Web3. You have to be passionate about it, because passion pushes us forward. And if you're not passionate about that project, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that, yeah.
Yeah, and that's good. I mean, if the culture is ideally the culture you want at any company is all of your employees are wildly passionate about it. They're invested in the success of the company. They're not just there for just a paycheck, treating it as just a 9 to 5 and go home and do whatever they want. Like you want your employees to really love their job.
Yeah.
So starting with you guys, it's really good to hear that you guys are really making sure that that's something that is achieved.
Yeah, changing lives. That's what we're about. It's all about changing lives, and changing the industry.
Great. I mean, very, very cool stuff. So, so do you see a lot of Web2 companies, these big agencies, like the PR firms of the world? I can go into some examples of ones that I've worked with. Do you see them asking for Web3 talent right now?
Yes, absolutely. So many companies are starting Web3 initiatives. I mean, it's been crazy. You just saw Starbucks and Polygon, right? Who knows what job opportunities that's going to open. I think that more and more Web 2 companies just need to start adopting Web 3. And in order to do that, you need to hire people that understand the ecosystem. So I think the one challenge is these Web 2 companies, they need Web 3 experts. So they're missing out on some candidates that have really great transferable skills. But I understand where they're coming from, right? They need someone that's in the community, that understands the community. So that way, they can hit the ground running. So yeah, I mean, there are a ton of companies, Web 2 companies that are starting Web 3 initiatives. I very much support them. Companies need to have a very specific talent brand to attract the right talent, right? Because most Web 3 talent, they want to continue in the Web 3 world. So you have to have a compelling reason to bring them back to Web 2 to start this initiative.
Yeah, what I noticed and I mean, this is maybe 2 years ago, the last year, we've worked with marketing agencies, PR companies that are world renowned in the Web 2 space and just past technologies. And what we've noticed is they're lacking so much on the Web 3 side of things that a lot of the strategies we were either giving them advice on or pretty much doing the work. And we just noticed there was just such a need there. And these are I'm not going to say any names, but major players in the space, Fortune 500 companies, the big dogs in the media and marketing world. So it was really interesting to see how slow that they were moving. But yeah, I guess with what you said earlier in the interview, you have to kind of really make sure you're getting the right candidate and all of that stuff. But it's good to hear that you are working with those types of companies and they are making the right transition.
Yeah.
So what would you say are, for someone looking for a job in Web3, what are some of the red flags that they should be aware of?
Oh, great question. So something you should be aware of and not get offended by is if you don't hear a response, right? You don't hear back. You get no feedback. It's been 4 weeks and you just don't know where you stand, right? No response gives you some insight into the disorganization of the company. I mean, imagine not having any time to respond to a simple thank you note, right? And my thing is, take a step back. Is that the type of company you want to work for, where you're not going to have time to respond to anything, right? And what do internal meetings look like? Especially if an interview with a leader has been rescheduled and rescheduled and rescheduled. I mean, the concern is how is an internal meeting going to work? How many times are internal meetings going to get rescheduled? And how far is that going to push out timelines? So those are the biggest red flags. And then, of course, paying attention to investors, right? What are some other things they've invested in? Where are they from? And then pay attention to the community and what people are saying about the company.
I love the red flag of no response to an interview, just not even having time to send a thank you note. That's something that I've never really thought of being a red flag, but now that you say it, it makes so much sense because the companies that back in the day before I got into Web3, there was one company that I did an interview with. And then I was interviewing for a couple companies, and they were sending follow-ups, all of that. The one that I ended up working with, they were canceling meetings, rescheduling everything. It was just the entire process was just all over the place. Mm-hmm. And then when I started, it was the exact same way. It was the most unorganized company. And then eventually I left, and I think the company folded. But I would never think to look at the interview process as a sign for what's to come in the future and what that job is actually going to be.
I think the interview process says a lot about a company, which is why it's so important to work with a recruiting firm that's going to positively represent your brand, right? Because yes, you started that job, but I bet you probably never would have forgotten how disorganized that interview was. Right? And there's a saying where if you have a good experience, you'll tell 3 people. If you have a bad experience, you'll tell 10. And the Web3 world is so small and talent is so scarce that reputations are really everything, right? And if you have a negative reputation about your hiring process, people are going to have these concerns, and that's going to get around.
So you mentioned the talent being scarce right now. I'm sure we have people listening to this that are looking to get into Web3 or looking to get into the crypto space. For someone with zero experience in Web3, but they want to get in, what would you say is a good place for them to start?
Got to become an expert. Got to become an expert in the space, because companies don't have time to ramp people up, right? They need people that can come in and hit the ground running, that already understand the ecosystem. Second, network your butt off. Like, LinkedIn is your best friend. I mentioned before, everybody's open to networking. When you have a conversation with someone, I would really encourage you, follow up on that LinkedIn message with a copy of your resume, saying something along the lines of, hey, I really enjoyed speaking with you. If you ever have an opening on your team, I'd love to be considered. Right? Small things like that. On top of that, I would really, start volunteering for projects. So you can find projects all over the internet. Mizari has a platform that shows all the funding of each company. So that way you can go look up those companies, go into their Discord, see what's going on there, and reach out to the community managers as well as the founders of the company and say, hey, here's what I'm really good at. Do you guys need any free help? Right? That counts as experience. And sometimes you have to take a step back to take a step forward. If you don't have the capacity to do volunteering, that's okay. See if they will do an hourly rate with you. But I think any experience is good experience.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because, if you don't have any experience, they can easily hire within their own company. Like, you have to come in as pretty much as an expert.
Yep.
And yeah, I guess it does make sense, the way to do that. And a lot of people that I know, the way that they became expert, it's so early in the industry, it's hard to call anyone an expert.
Oh, yeah.
But the way that people are really getting their knowledge up is through LinkedIn and having these conversations and working on projects, being part of communities, just engulfing yourself in the space.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to say you don't know something. People love explaining things. They love to talk about this space. So don't be afraid to ask, hey, what's an EVM or what's a DApp, right? Get clarity on these things.
What do you see being one of the most in-demand jobs in the industry?
Yeah, developers. Developers all day long. I think after developers, it comes community managers, which I think is interesting because the crypto space really invented community management and that job title. So I think those are in hot demand, as well as product managers. Marketing is sprinkled in there as well. But developers, technical leadership is definitely top priority.
I was going to guess that the devs would be the top one, just from my experiences. I know exactly what we need every time we're working on a project. It's always more devs. So it does make sense that is the most in demand. I am surprised with community managers, because I feel like with messages that I get, I had so many messages from people that are looking for community management jobs, whether they're a mod or just a community manager. So I guess it does make sense that is an in-demand job, because there are so many projects popping up. For those people that are always on LinkedIn sending messages, commenting, and they want to be hired as a community manager, what would you recommend?
Great question. What would I recommend to become a community manager? So I think the first thing, and I hate to come back to it, but I think it's networking, right? So a good community manager has great communication skills. They're able to engage and really get people together. So I think showing those skills, gives them an example of what it's going to be like to work with you. I think you really have to sharpen your skills on these, or sharpen your knowledge on these different projects, right? To have a deep understanding of them, to be able to represent them to the community. But I do think in order to get a community management position, you need to be poking around Discord, asking if there's openings. There's plenty of Discord channels that are dedicated towards crypto jobs. So I'm always keeping my eyes on those, but I really do think the best plan of attack is meeting other community managers. Community management is also a small world. There is a group on Discord that's strictly for community managers, and everybody bounces ideas off each other. Everybody knows each other. So getting into that crowd is really important.
So tell me, if someone does want a job in crypto, where could they go?
Yeah, so we're definitely an option. You can come to us. You can see our job board on our website. But another option is just listen, if I can help you find a job, amazing. If someone else can help you find a job, amazing. Goal accomplished. So I don't have to be the answer for everything. I want my candidates to be successful. So I would check out crypto-careers.com. You definitely want to set up Google job alerts. So you can literally type in crypto business analyst jobs, and a whole list of jobs will come up, and you can set up an email reminder. AngelList is free for companies to post on, so we're noticing a lot of Web3 companies posting on AngelList. And then, oh goodness, what's the last one? AngelList career. Oh, LinkedIn. Duh. LinkedIn is one of the top places, so you can also set up job alerts there. I think there was a study done in the New York Times about how people with more connections, more weak connections, are more successful in their job hunt than people that have a smaller group of connections. So I think it's really important to get yourself out there, apply where you can. When you do apply to a job, don't be afraid to reach out to that hiring manager. Send them a connection request. You never know what doors are going to open for you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's like refreshing to hear someone that you're in this industry and it's obviously benefiting your company having people go to you, but really putting yourself out there and like wanting to help the people. And that's such a major attribute, and it says so much not only about you but your company as a whole, that your goal is just to help people get jobs. Yeah. If it benefits you, it benefits you, but if it doesn't, so be it, as long as someone gets a job.
Yeah. That's what it's about. And I'm sure if I were to, and I've gotten plenty of people jobs outside of my client base, And what usually happens is, one, if they have people that are looking for jobs, they'll send them my way. And when they're hiring, they'll come back to me. So you get out of the universe what you put into it. I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah, everything goes full circle. Karma is there. I like that. That's the way it has to be. And I hope that culture keeps building within Web3 even more, because that's big. And the networking part, I think, is already there. Everyone wants to talk with everyone. It's just a new industry. Everyone's so excited about it. And I talk on the podcast a lot about like the difference between Twitter and LinkedIn, how LinkedIn is like the Web3 culture you want. You could have these intelligent conversations and learn and network, compared to Twitter, which is like you can make a great point about blockchain technology and the future of the space, and then you'll get a comment right after being like, I just stole your JPEG. And like, that's all it is. So I definitely like the way that the culture is going, especially on LinkedIn. And what you guys are doing, I think, really, really helps and really, really plays into that.
Thanks. We're just trying to keep it spicy. You know what I mean? Help as many people as we can and make it fun. Recruiting is fun. I love what I do, and I think it should be fun for candidates as well. So, I love the long form content on LinkedIn, but I also think a quick video to lighten your day is nice too.
Yeah, I like that. Keep it spicy. That's I like that, the way to describe your company. That's a good one. So, yeah, this has been great talking to you, Emily. I guess to wrap this up, tell the people where they can find you, if they are looking for a job, what website they can go to for the crypto recruiters, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, so you can find me on literally everything. We're on TikTok, we're on Pinterest, we're literally on everything. So if you just look up the handle The Crypto Recruiter, you'll find me. TheCryptoRecruiters.io is a great place to go to our website and look at all of our open jobs. Good news, we're redoing our website, so very excited for that. But yeah, LinkedIn's probably the best way to get a hold of me. And, my email is emily@landontop.io if someone would like to contact me directly there as well.
Perfect. So if anyone out there, if you're looking for a job, if you want to get a job in the Web3 space, you guys know where to go. Emily, it was great talking to you. This was another episode of Okay, What's Next? Follow Emily, check out the Crypto Recruiters, and we'll see you guys next time. What's next? What's next? What's next? If you enjoyed the content in this episode, make sure to check out our entire channel. Check out our socials, check out our streams. We're talking about good stuff all day. Follow, like, subscribe. We'll talk to you guys next time.